Taurai Jack, we've known each other for quite some time, and finally we're able to have you here on the podcast, property enthusiast, property entrepreneur, and I've learned a lot from you, especially in the property space.
We are built to take risk.
Okay.
If you're an entrepreneur already, you need to figure out how best do I mitigate risk before you jump in. That's the first thing.
Have a business or an asset that's able to cover the income that I'm actually receiving and to build towards that. One thing that I liked when you spoke was just about, in the beginning, just starting where you're at. Starting where you're at, spending the time to clean up your credit record.
Oh, yeah.
There's no shame to clean up your credit record. And if what can make sense is a 2-bed, 1-bath or 1-bed, 1-bath, start there so that one can be able to learn and understand how to grow this. And of course, tapping into the other education, because I've seen you've invested a lot in your education to understand different types of ways to do property, different types of ways to do property deals. Welcome to another episode of Monetise Your Business Podcast, which we are very proud to have in partnership with F&B. I'm your host for today, Papa Biz, and I'm excited for the conversation that we're going to be having with our next guest, Taurai Jack. But before we get into it, normally just at the beginning of the podcast, I just like to share some insights from things that I picked up from an entrepreneurial point of view. I finished a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. It talks about lots of different things, but one element that stuck with me, spoken about how, not to say that there's one key to success, but one sure key to failure is trying to please everybody. And one of the key things is learning to say no a lot, so that you then have the opportunity to focus on that one thing. And, when I got out of corporate, it was something that I struggled with because there was a lot of requests on my time and energy. And when I didn't learn to say no for those things, it actually took time and space away from focusing on the one thing that I knew would help me grow my business. And the one thing that I knew would help me grow in life. Because what ends up happening then, I got to realize, is that we end up getting busy. And busyness is actually an enemy of business. When we're too busy, we don't actually get the time and the space and the enthusiasm to focus on the one thing that'll actually move our life forward, and especially our business forward. And it was something that was actually so pertinent when I read it. I thought, I actually remember going through this, and it was something that I thought would be worthwhile just sharing for the viewers as well. But as it is, we're here with our next guest, which is Taurai Jack. We've known each other for quite some time, and finally we're able to have you here on the podcast, property enthusiast, property entrepreneur, and I've learned a lot from you, especially in the property space. So please, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate being here. It's amazing what you guys are doing with entrepreneurs. Yeah, that's just amazing. So thanks for having me.
No problem, man. So, just for the audience, perhaps to give some insight, let's take back, where did your property journey begin? I've always been interested in property, but I've had to do like a lot of courses and education and things of the sort as well while I was in corporate. Where did your property journey begin?
I think at the beginning for me it was a dream. I remember having visited Joburg in the early 90s.
Okay.
And complexes were coming up. It was gated communities was beginning to be a thing. And my parents at the time, they had a 2,000 square piece of land, and we had a house there, and we had a cottage at the back.
Sure.
And my dad had turned the cottage into like a 3-bedroom house. So in essence, we were 2 properties now on one stand.
Yeah.
And I remember I still have that in one of my documentations. I actually drew what I saw in Johannesburg.
Okay.
Which was many other little houses on the same stand. I'm like, but it's possible. But I didn't know how. So anyway, fast tracking, obviously you come to Johannesburg for many of us. The lights of Johannesburg literally blew my mind.
Okay.
The dream was gone.
Okay.
And I just rose up the ladder in the banking space. And whilst I was traveling, I remember I had a project in Ghana. And so every Sunday night, I would fly to Ghana. And every Friday evening, I'll be coming back home. And as it becomes, you begin to know who's traveling.
Okay.
Right. And
Begin to see familiar faces, yeah.
Yeah. And at one point, there was another brother who's from Ghana. And I had flown in business class 4 times with him. And we sat next to each other.
Okay.
So I asked him, I'm like, what do you do? And he says to me, no, he does real estate in South Africa. And in Ghana, he does a couple of things.
Okay.
So I'm like, but what do you do in real estate? And the first thing that came up was, so do you own a real estate agents? Because that was my only sphere of what property was all about. He says, no, we just buy real estate. So I was like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking, here's somebody who's a couple of kilometers away doing it in South Africa. So how's it doing it? And it literally joggled my mind of my early dream that I had. And I remembered I arrived at home and I started looking for that paper. And my wife's like, what are you looking for? And I said, there's a paper that I've got, but I don't remember. I didn't see it. And then obviously we started talking about real estate and things like that in the house in general. At that time, we owned a house that we were staying in, which was our primary home.
Okay.
It wasn't an investment.
This is a primary residence.
Primary residence. My wife had one because when I got married to her, she had her own house.
Okay.
And I had my own house before. So now we've got about 3 properties that we've got.
Okay.
The 2, we are renting them out. So we're doing investments, but we actually don't know. It's just renting them out.
Yeah, just renting out. I mean, you're both working and...
Yeah. And I connected the conversation that I had with a guy that I had met on the aeroplane. And what he had bestowed in me was to say, look, for whatever business you need to do, make sure that you've got money in real estate.
Okay.
Have money in real estate and have money on the side for whatever that you're trying to do, and have money for the business that you're running. So it's 3 different pockets of money. I'm like, okay, so I banked that. So then I realized, wait, I only just have these rental properties, but they're not making money. I'm subsidizing that.
So you're paying extra every month for those properties, actually?
Yes. Our house, because we stay in it, it's also not giving us any money. So then I realized, wait, on this guy's books, I'm not actually doing investments. So then my wife and I, we started having conversations and we decided, okay, great, let's start to do a business.
Okay.
So that we can pay off all these properties. That was
So the idea in the beginning is to pay off the properties. Okay.
Yeah. So my first business, then I I started buying nappies.
Okay.
Wholesaling them. I would buy nappies, big container, and would distribute into the townships.
Okay.
Made some good money. Good money. We paid off.
Because that's something that's always in need, eh?
Oh, you never run out of clients. Right. And within that, our biggest problem was that 2 of our drivers in 2 different incidents were followed right to our gate.
Really?
Yes.
To where you stay?
100%.
Sure.
So, and they were being followed for simple reasons. We were selling in the township. The township is heavy cash. So the guys that we're selling to, they're not running on cards or things like that. So my guys would be having 300,000 on them at any given time coming back. So with that incident at the gate, I realized this is a good business, but
It comes with some risk.
I don't have the skill to manage it. So immediately I then decided, no, this is not a good business for me. So I went on into car rentals,
Okay.
and I actually didn't realize that I had carried the same risk, because with car rentals, many people would come and they would rent cars from us.
Yeah.
This is before the days of Uber and all of those. And the vehicle was worth what, 250,000.
Yeah.
Yes, I've got insurance on it, but as our market is in South Africa, we lost probably maybe about 4 vehicles
Are you serious?
that we couldn't track.
Are you serious?
You know, tracker came to us and says, hey, let's go and pick it up. We went through, it's supposed to be here, but it's not here. It's gone. Right. So obviously then I realized, no, man, this is not the right business again for me. And I'm still employed.
Of course.
I'm doing this, still employed. And whilst I was doing that, my wife bought me a book, a Robert Kiyosaki book,
Okay.
that I never read. And somewhere along the line, I decided, no, let's buy a farm.
Okay.
I'd gone into some guys and they were doing investments, chicken investments.
Okay.
So I put in some money, I'd made some money for about 1 year to 2 years. And I decided to partner up with them. So I bought the farm and we had our first cycle. We made some good money. So we were running about 20,000 chickens every week.
Really?
Coming in, going out, coming
Sure.
in, going out. And that was a good business. But we got hit with flu at one point. And first time round, we couldn't get up. And we decided, we spoke to our bank. And because I was working for the bank at that particular time,
Yeah.
the bank gave me a bit of a runway.
Okay.
And says, yeah, we can help you out, Mr. Jack. And then the second one, again, we got hit with the flu after our second cycle.
Are you serious?
And
That's different types of risk, eh?
yeah. And I couldn't get up at that time. So we lost about 5 million on that.
What?
Eventually the bank, had I not been working for the bank, I think I would have been repossessed.
I'm pretty sure, hey?
So at the time when I was working for the bank, they had what they used to call employee wellness.
Okay.
So I went through that product and they managed everything for us. But whilst I'm now making money in the chickens, I then realize, what do I do with this money? So I went to a property seminar. So Robert Kiyosaki, I went to a property seminar and I got excited, and there were products that they were selling, which is coaching and whatnot. And I'm thinking, should I pull the trigger? But my wife is not here. So I decided, let me go back home, consult with the missus. And the wife says to me, but this is the guy that I bought you the book on.
Which you haven't read.
I didn't disclose that.
Now she's going to know if she doesn't already.
Literally, I think it was on a Friday. I read that book from around about 8, 9-ish in the morning. In the evening. I went through a marathon. I finished later on Saturday evening.
Wow, look at that.
And that changed my mind. And I went back to the seminar again. At this time, it just so happened we were hit with the same flu again the second time. The money that I thought I had, I now didn't have it.
Yeah.
But my wife then paid for us.
Sure.
So she paid for the course.
Sure.
I remember it was 180,000 that we paid on that
God,
program.
wow.
And then I started learning. With the learning, I then realized, everything else that I was doing is wrong. Because as a first generation builder, there are certain business that I should be doing and not be doing.
Okay.
Because as a first generation builder, I need to have assets so that it can free up my time.
Yes.
And when it frees up my time, I can be able to do more business, but my foundation is strong. So I tested that. I tested the theory. I'm like, okay, let me buy my first 2-bed, 1-bath. Bingo. I bought my first 2-bed, 1-bath for 160,000.
Now, the other two that you had before, was that in this category? What made you go for this specific type of category, 2-bed, 1-bath?
So the first two that we had, I was a bachelor. I had my 2-bed, 2-bath.
Oh, okay.
So again, that was my primary home when I was single. My wife, she also had her own. It was a primary residence.
Okay.
So when I went for the 2-bed, 1-bath at that particular time, I had no money.
Okay.
I was in debt. So I was looking for low-hanging fruit, something that is manageable to me. And I was working with a coach at the time, and he says to me, it's pointless for you to go and chase for deals that are 5 million, 10 million when you can't do them yourself.
Yes.
So go for stuff that you can be able to get through if you can't find a partner or something like that. So I went in my first property that I bought, and this is almost like 10 years ago, in and around Kempton Park in Central City.
Okay.
2-bed, 1-bath. I bought it for 160,000.
Sure.
We renovated it for about 50,000. We rented it out for 5,000 rand.
Wow, look at that, eh?
I eventually sold it for 550.
Really?
Took the money and put it into a bigger deal. When I tested that, that's when I said, wait, what's my effort in doing real estate? After buying, after renovation. So that's the heavy lifting. My other work is just literally checking in to see, is the money in? What are the problems that are there? But what problems can go wrong on a 2-bed, 1-bath? Very little. But I'm getting my 4,000 rand every month.
Okay.
So I made the calculations. I'm like, what if I calculate by 10, by 20? What does that mean?
Okay.
So I got excited. Long and behold, today we're just below 500 units.
500 units? Jeez.
Yeah. That we manage and own. And we've got an additional just below 2,000 beds in student accommodation, which is another strategy that I learned after I started on my first 2-bed, 1-bath. So that's what the journey has been, man.
Sure. You know, for a lot of people, I find business people, entrepreneurs, but also people working in corporate, sometimes when they think about starting off in property, the concerns that they relay is things like, but how will I find tenants, and what if the tenants, they don't pay? And sometimes they tell me, yeah, but I know what I was like and some of my friends, and the way we'd leave some of the properties, it was in quite a state, but good luck to the landlord after having to repair there. So, you know, what do you say to people like that? Because I know you also work with working professionals and entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah. I think it's this idea of shifting our mindset from, are we running a business or are we emotionally invested in the asset?
Okay.
So for me, the properties they're a business, right? You put in a tenant in the property, you need to make sure that the property is ready for the tenant, right? So what's the value that you've put into that unit, whether it's a 2-bed or 1-bath? And then thereafter, obviously, if that tenant breaks in anything, it's their responsibility to replace it because you gave them when it was fully functioning, right? But if it so happens that they're not able to do that, what type of insurance do you have to cover yourself? Because you have to cover yourself for the income. You have to protect your business. So how are you protecting your business, right? So at the moment, I know that there are lots of people that will say, hey, we don't do deposits, come in. But I say, but if you don't take deposit, how do you protect yourself against a tenant that is going to come and break so and so, and then they move out? So you're exposing yourself. Hey, but that's what the market is doing. Okay, great. But if that's what the market is doing, if you're not charging deposit, what are you doing to attract the right client for you?
That's true.
You know, so I think it's just a mindset that we need to change when you're now investing as a business and you're not emotionally attached to it.
Okay.
The challenge is we get emotionally attached to it. You know, very good example. The property that you stay in, it's got marble tops for a kitchen.
Okay.
Right? That's expensive. But because you are emotionally thinking like that, so your properties, you're also wanting them to be like that for the tenant, for tenants that you are, for places that you're going to rent out.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not economically viable, depending on the market that you're playing in. So, but what other options are there to still have a table counter? There's wood, there's granite, there's lots
There's
of
quite a lot of different options here.
So look at what your offering is to your customer, right? You have to think of it as a business. What is the offering that you're doing? What's the capital that you're going to invest in?
Yeah.
The capital that you're investing in, it has to have a return. What is the return? But unfortunately, many of us, what happens is we are in the old Taurai where we were staying in that property.
Yes.
And we have moved on to another property. Now we've gotten married, and now we make it an investment, and we call it an investment. But it's actually never been geared as an investment, because when you bought that, your thinking was not it's an investment.
I guess it's the thinking, and as well, we've run a series workshops this month around just understanding your numbers better, and I've found that quite a lot of people, if they're looking to go into property or thinking about it, they get scared because they don't know how to understand the basic numbers. Did you experience that as well? Do you experience that with people that you work with as well?
Oh, yeah, I got a cool story on that one. So I started working with a coach, and he gave me a spreadsheet, and he says, TJ, this is our deal calculator.
Okay.
And my wife, she was like, nah, this is complicated.
It's complicated, eh?
So we maybe let's say, call it coaching number 5.
Okay.
My wife didn't pitch up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She didn't. She's checked out. But I leaned in because I understand numbers and things like that. But what I started doing at home is I started bringing it in slowly. Not on the entire spreadsheet, but on pockets of it, so that we could journey together. Because remember, this is our journey.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for me to buy the properties and have this whole big portfolio, and my own wife doesn't understand it, because statistically men die first.
Yeah.
So if I die, what's going to happen then? Right? So I need to bring her on the journey as well. So with that, a lot of people, yes, you're very right. Running numbers is a huge problem. I have seen it in my own house.
Yeah.
But there's ways in which you can be able to do it. And there's some of the practical ways that I can say to people is get someone who knows how to work with an Excel.
Okay.
Ask them to lock the Excel tabs and have 2 or 3 things that you can change. There's ways to do these things. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, to go from starting off in the journey, and then there's one 2-bed, 1-bedroom apartment, to where things are now.
Yeah.
Some people that they'll be watching think, oh, geez, that's just crazy. I don't even know how to get there. But maybe talk to me about some of the early challenges you experienced between just maybe 1 and 10. What are some of the challenges that you used to experience?
So the challenges is always going to be, I think a lot of people will resonate with this one. It's always funding, right? So that's the biggest one. I don't come from a background of people where they had money. I'm the first guy to ever rose up the corporate ladder to be a banker. So for that reason, funding is the biggest one.
Yeah.
How I navigated that one, I always want to give people the challenge and the solution. My first challenge, obviously being funding, I cleaned my credit record. Right. It took me a bit of time, but I cleaned my credit record.
How did you go about doing that, just on a basic level?
So for me, I think I was fortunate because there was a bank program.
Oh, yes, you spoke about that wellness program.
Yes. So I followed through on that one. I paid whatever that needed to be paid and everything else. And they gave me the journey on what it's going to be looking like, and I followed that. But instead of following it through, doing the small little bits, I accelerated in it.
Okay.
But what I then also realized is that there are so many other people that are rich in money, but poor in time. I now understood these deals. So basically what I started doing is I started doing partnerships.
Okay.
Right. And partnership has basically made me to become who I am today.
Sure.
I can tell you straight now, the entire portfolio that I've got, I've never put in my own money.
Sure.
I've put in my own money in learning.
Mm.
I've invested a lot in learning. But I have taken other people with me on the journey, those that are keen on doing partnerships. So I'm always looking at, okay, fine, there's the deals here.
Yeah.
We can do it this way. This is how we can protect ourselves. This is how we can protect the next person. Who's got the money? And then we married the two, and we've grown the portfolio over the years.
So a partnership, that would be, if I understand it correctly, maybe you've find a property that you think makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you'll look to partner with somebody who's got money to make the deal happen. Am I understanding correctly?
100%. So as an example, right? Happy that we've got credit now that we can leverage off our banks. Actually, FNB has been great to us over the years.
Nice.
Yeah. And with that, we can get the credit. However, I'll give you a very simple transaction of a property. It's one of my strategies that we do. We could buy a property for, let's say, for 2.5 million.
Okay.
Great, I can get the deal, bingo, FNB will give me the money, right? If we're running it as a student accommodation, I need to do conversions on the property. I need furniture on the property.
Yes.
Right? I need to improve security on the property. Generally, that takes me nothing less of R1 million, 700 to 1 million.
Sure.
Okay, so now, Papa, that's where you come in with your money. Right. However, on such a deal, if I'm to have, let's say, 25 students on that property, the same property is now worth about 5 million. I'm doing all the work. I'm reporting back to you.
Yeah.
And we are managing it. And that's how, over the years now, I've been able to build relationships with others that are keen to do it, don't have the time to do it. But there's many ways to do it. I'm trying to solve for the problem of, you've got a problem, what's the solution? You have to think of the solution. I think the biggest guys that win in real estate is the guys that are always solving problems.
Okay.
And there's no one way of solving a problem. There's multiple ways of doing it. Yeah.
Now, I've seen also that you help different entrepreneurs, but also people within corporate that are employed in terms of assisting them in getting into property. Can you talk a little bit more about that? How do you do that?
100%.
Where did that come from?
Yeah. So number one, I was helped.
Okay.
I didn't get to where I am today by myself. I was helped. Somebody else coached me. Somebody else gave their time to where I am. Up until now, I mean, I still have coaches that are helping me throughout the route. But I remember very well in one of our classes, my coach from the Robert Kiyosaki space says, our motto is that once we teach you, you have to carry on the baton. Right? There's many more people out there that are not financially literate. So once you become, then you also need to carry others. And I've then taken that and I've run with it. I think the number one thing that we do at the moment is that we've got a property platform where people can find opportunities.
Oh, really?
'Cause I know that there's people that are, they have the money, but they just don't know where to get the right deals.
Yes.
Right. So we've got a platform that's called investinsaproperty.coza.
Okay.
And basically people jump on there, they register. From registering, the properties that are on the platform, they are profitable properties. So if you got the cash, hey, you jump on it and you buy it for yourself and you run it for yourself. If you want,
Are these properties that would be profitable in terms of if somebody is looking to buy and sell it, or is that it's profitable if somebody's looking to buy and maybe get some tenants, or is it all types?
It's all types.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an assorted. And we're offering on that platform, I think it's a full turnkey. For some people, they they want to own it, but they don't know how to manage it.
Yeah.
So we've partnered up with a couple of guys that would then partner that. One of the partners that we have is My Student House, and they manage students' portfolios specifically, right? They're managing about 2,000 students at the moment across the country in 7 cities. So if you're coming on onto that with your 50-20 bed, you're coming into a recipe that works. And on the residential side, we've gone out with a company called Productive Realty.
Okay.
So they'll manage. So it's always in the management where people get it wrong. So if you've got
the ongoing management of the properties.
100%, if you've got somebody else who's managing it, who's experienced, and who's professional around it, then your asset is just printing money for you, in my view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, when it comes to entrepreneurs, I mean, I've got my own view on this.
Yeah.
Do you advise entrepreneurs to get involved in the property space and to get involved in owning properties?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to give you a good example. Let's assume one is a lawyer, a doctor, or you're selling some stuff. Got a physical shop.
Yeah.
Right. The way your business is going to be evaluated if you're just running the numbers on offering a service, that's good.
Okay.
When you got an asset in the business, the evaluation is extremely different. The evaluation is going to be greater because there's asset in it, right? So, I mean, I can challenge anybody to say today, if you had to take anything away as an entrepreneur specifically, and you have a service business, within that service, you've been running, let's say, for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Get an evaluator to evaluate your business.
Okay.
They should be doing that anyways. That's how you're going to see whether you're growing or not.
Yeah.
First thing, get an evaluator. The evaluator is going to tell you your business is worth X.
Okay.
Right. If you've got a partner, that's how you're going to know whether you're going to take life cover or key insurance on your partner or the other one, right? Okay. Then make an assumption that you're buying that student accommodation that I spoke about, that example. Let's just plug it in that scenario, and let the numbers give you the answers.
Okay.
You see the difference in the numbers yourself.
No, I agree. I mean, one thing that I've seen, it's also from Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, he challenges that for people, they'll talk about different purposes in business and so on, but he's very clear that the purpose for any business should be to buy real estate.
Yeah.
If your business if you're not growing your business to be able to buy real estate, then you're not growing actually the business to be able to own assets. And then it will always be dependent on you. So I've always found that quite interesting as well. And I mean, with you, I mean, you've spoken about different elements I've seen where it's you buying and selling, buying and renting, and even buying.
We do very little of the buying and selling.
Or is it?
Our market is not really geared for that.
Okay.
Because we have many slower aspects.
Okay.
In our compliance. So, for instance, buying a property, getting it on your book alone, if there's a bank involved, can take you anything to 2 months to 3 months.
Sure.
And again, when you're selling, that's another 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
So if you take that time, that's already 6 months. Worst case scenario, if it's now complicated as a deceased estate or things like that.
Oh no, that gets more complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very selective on, I call them flips, on the flips. But we're very much around buy real estate, own it. And I want to come back to the entrepreneur to say, you're a service orientated today because you're young, you're vibrant, and you still have the energy. There's a time when you won't have that energy. Real estate can continue plowing money into your business, but with little effort to yourself. And that's what we all want. And if you can actually reverse that to say, wait, real estate, I'm banking, let's say 100 grand.
Okay.
Can my real estate give me 100 grand? what does that journey look like? 6 years time, 4 years time, do that. It will change your lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, if we're looking to wrap things up, if, you know, somebody's listening, you know, as an entrepreneur, they're watching this and they're trying to, in their mind, they think, hey, for me, it's a bit late for, perhaps I'm starting too late, or I don't know if this is something that would work for me, or I'm thinking that there's too much risk involved. What type of advice would you give something like that? Also, just based on, you know, your journey and the type of, you know, students that you've engaged with properly over time.
The first one is that there's always risk in everything.
Okay.
Just waking up is risk. You could slip and fall and die. Drinking water right now, it's taking risk. So we are built to take risk.
Okay.
If you're an entrepreneur already, you need to figure out how best do I mitigate risk before you jump in. That's the first thing that you need to do. Thereafter, everything else is flowing because the risk never goes away.
Yeah.
Oh, TJ, but I'm scared. The fear never goes away as well. Up until now, I'm signing offer to purchase. I'm still scared.
Yeah.
I've done many deals, right? Now, if you're in your 60s, if whatever age group that they are in, it's never too late.
Okay.
Statistically, we are living longer now. That's what the data is saying.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You know, own families, you know, we might die sooner. But statistically, as a people, we are living longer.
Yeah.
So which means that whatever mechanisms that was there to help us in our old age, that recipe doesn't work anymore. Because now we need more, we need a longer income to live for a longer period than what we needed before.
Okay.
So if you are 60, hey, just buy the one bed, one bath.
Okay.
If your resources are little, but if you've got a bit of resources, go all out. And go all out with the aim to replace your 101 goal should be to replace your active income.
Sure.
Because if you replace that, whatever that you're going to do later, it does not disrupt your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You don't lose the you don't lose the car, you don't lose the house. You have something to pass on now to the next generation.
Yeah.
But I never want to speak about next generation or legacy when people can't feed themselves today.
That's
so I'm
true.
like, how about we start with today?
Okay.
So 101 goal, learn, figure it out, see what is your goal, how much money you're making today with being active. Let that be your goal for the next 3 to 5 years to replace that income.
Yeah.
Now we are at par with active income versus, and I don't call real estate passive income.
Okay.
It's passive compared to being active, but it's not passive. There is
There's
work
still
to do.
work to be done. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I work probably like 3 to 4 hours in a day in my real estate business, but it's still work
Yeah.
because somebody needs to make the payments
Yeah. Of course.
and make the decisions. The roof is leaking, so
Need to find solutions for that. Yeah.
100%. It's just passive in relation to being active.
Okay.
Right. But once you get your time back, there's lots that you can do now, Papa. You can give your time to the SPCA, to the children's home down the road. You can add value now from an impact perspective. And I personally think that's what entrepreneurs are called for.
To make impact.
Yes. Whilst you're making the business today, and whilst you've got so much money, if you look at all the other businessmen that have been great,
Yeah.
there's an impact aspect to it.
Okay.
So if your business is not being impactful today, then why are you doing it?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. No, thanks for that. And actually, I mean, just in terms of what you've shared, I mean, it's been quite a lot. And one of the things that I've picked up from what you've spoken about is just in terms of, really assessing and understanding, different types of business and trying to understand what are we actually doing here? And understanding, because in your story you spoke about the risks and the challenges involved as you're growing different types of businesses. And as you got educated, your eyes were open in terms of, am I actually doing business correctly, as you then started to move into property? And it's actually something that we need to question all for ourselves, so that to be able to see, can I be able to have a business or an asset that's able to cover the income that I'm actually receiving, and to build towards that. One thing that I liked when you spoke was just about, in the beginning, just starting where you're at, spending the time to clean up your credit record.
Oh, yeah.
There's no shame to clean up your credit record. And if what can make sense is a 2-bed, 1-bath, or 1-bed, 1-bath, start there, so that one can be able to learn and understand how to grow this. And of course, tapping into the other education, because I've seen you've invested a lot in your education to understand different types of ways to do property, different types of ways to do property deals, even as you spoke as well about entering to property deals where, it wasn't actually your money that was involved. That's a very, very important skill, the ability to make money by using other people's money, OPM, being able to use other people's money. That's a crucial skill for all of us entrepreneurs actually to be able to learn. So thanks for having come through and having shared that with us. If the audience, they've listened to this and they want to reach out to you or to the company, I know you mentioned the website as well. Where should they go if they're looking to reach out to yourself or to the company? Where should they go to?
100%. So I think everywhere we are the TJ Tribe.
Okay.
And the TJ Tribe, I think we just represent something very simple, which is how can we become better as a people, particularly for those that are first generation wealth builders.
Sure.
Right, because there's many challenges that comes with that.
Yeah.
And there's many distractions that comes with that.
Yes.
To give you an example is, when I was working for the bank, the numbers that I used to work with in pounds, because I used to work for Barclays at the time, and then I transitioned to ABSA.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Big numbers.
Big numbers. So you overlook a 2-bed, 1-bath.
Okay.
The numbers are not matching up in your head, but you're forgetting the biggest win here. This is ownership. This is employment.
Yes.
And I think for me, when I made that shift, that changed.
Okay.
For me. So many, especially guys that are like, they're starting off in entrepreneurship, but they're still employed.
Yeah.
They want to simulate what they are doing in their workplace.
Okay, I see.
And that's dangerous because you haven't started yet.
Okay.
You have to crawl. You have to walk. And there will be time that you'll be able to run. But we don't want to take that. We just want to copy and paste.
Yes.
And not all business will be a copy and paste. They are there, yes. So, I think that's what we are, the TJ Tribe.
Okay. So they'll find a TJ Tribe that'll be on social media, Instagram,
website,
TJ Tribe. And then the other website that you mentioned as well, it was Invest.
So that's investinsaproperty.co.za.
Investinsaproperty.co.za.
That's just for the guy who's like, I'm hungry for a deal. I want to buy something, but I'm tired of buying stuff that I'm subsidizing.
Okay.
We've got deals that are profitable, 26%, 10,000 Rand a month.
Okay.
There's plenty of deals there.
Okay, no problem. We'll make sure to share those as well
100%.
For the audience to be able to reach out there afterwards.
Cool.
So thanks for that. So monetizers, thanks for having tuned into another Power Packed. This was very informative episode of Monetize Your Business, which we're very proud to be in partnership with FNB with. Do also make sure just to follow us and see where we'll be having our next workshop. We will have our next workshop as we travel across South Africa with this Monetize Your Business program. Also be sure to check out our socials where we have our monthly online masterclasses that you are able to join in and learn more from other entrepreneurs like Taurai as well, that we're proud to be able to host. So that's it from us today with another episode. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers.